One of the first releases for 2024 is another Elixir, and that is Hugo Boss The Scent Elixir. So this is a flanker for Hugo Boss The Scent, which was released in 2015. If you're not familiar with this line, it has a unique note of maninka fruit that most people who are familiar with the Hugo Boss Scent line understand. So I think there are around 9 or 10 flankers in this collection. So we're going to find out if this is worth picking up. I am a huge fan of Boss The Scent line, more specifically Boss The Scent Absolute. It is probably one of my top 5 fragrances that I have. So I had no problem blind buying this one. So one thing that's important that I saw on the box that helped me kind of understand this fragrance a little bit better when I was smelling it the first time was their description of it on the back of the box. It's an alluring blend of red hot pimento, carnal Caledonian sandalwood, and vibrant lavandin. Absolute inflames the senses. So the keynote for me in that description is the use of lavandin absolute, which we will talk about when we get down to experiencing the fragrance. So essentially that's the note breakdown for the fragrance: lavandin, sandalwood, and pimento. I don't normally like to talk about the presentation or the bottles too much, but there are some differences with the new Elixir that are different than the previous versions, than the previous flankers. So one of the most notable ones is the new bottle does not have the metal cage that wraps the top and bottom and down the sides. As you can see on this bottle of the Scent Absolute, it has the metal cage that runs down the side, which connects to the bottom plate, and then of course on the top. The new bottle does not have that. Also, so another difference is you can see that underneath the Boss on the glass, the old versions would always have Hugo Boss listed there. This one has the scent listed there, which on the old flankers the scent is actually engraved in the top piece. Overall, not a big issue, although I do prefer the older flankers version of the presentation. It just looks a little bit more classy to me. Alright, so let's dive into the scent here. So when I first spray this on, I get a lot of sweet red fruits and dried fruits. Overall, the opening is very mass appealing and it smells really good. There's also a little bit of that pimento or red pepper spiciness underneath it, but overall the main thing that I smell is the sweet red fruit notes. Now to me, the first couple of minutes of spraying this, it does not smell like the scent DNA at all. There is no maninka fruit. I would not even be able to recognize this as a flanker of Boss The Scent. However, as those red fruit notes kind of start to dissipate after a few minutes, the next thing that comes out to me is a heavy dose of that lavandin that they talked about on the back of the box. So if you're not familiar with lavandin or how lavandin absolute smells, it's kind of similar to lavender, which you've probably smelled in tons of different fragrances, but it's a little bit more camphorous and herbal. It is slightly different than just plain lavender. There's also a little bit of kind of like a soft and sweet vanilla underneath as well. So while the lavandin is the prominent note to my nose, there still is a little bit of that red fruit underneath, and now is when that scent DNA comes out, where I can start to smell the maninka fruit. So the maninka fruit is what separates Boss The Scent from most other fragrances. They use the maninka fruit in here, which is not very common in perfumery. So what maninka fruit smells like is almost like a sweet, fruity note, but it also has a little bit of a dusty scent to it. And then from time to time I can also get like a cocoa powder scent. So almost like a little bit of a chocolate bar, and that smell that you get when you open up like Nestle's cocoa powder. So while that maninka note is present, it is not the star of the show like it is in some of the other flankers. It's still there, but it kind of pops in and out, and it's still that aromatic freshness of the lavandin that's really the most prominent note to my nose. So to me, the fragrance changes quite a bit from that opening of sweet, fruity red notes to the mid. So I love the way the opening smells. It's fresh and fruity. It puts me in a good mood. And the way they use the lavandin, it makes me feel really fresh, but A lot of times with lavender, it has that kind of fresh, clean, and soapy out of the shower scent, which is popular with a lot of barbershop style fragrances, but this one's a little bit more herbal and camphorous. So once we get into the dry down, it's more of a creamy sandalwood scent with a little bit of spiciness and a good dose of vanilla. Now to me, this stuff smells amazing. Boss Bottled the Scent Absolute was one of my favorite fragrances, and I've worn this for 3 or 4 days, and I really think this is going to be my favorite Boss scent, and definitely glad that I did a blind buy on this. So the scent trail on this also smells amazing. So my son has worn this a couple of times, and when he walks by, I definitely notice it. It has a tinge of sweetness and fruitiness, but it also has that, warm woodsy vanilla and sandalwood base. So the way this fragrance is built, it's not very linear at all. So what I mean by that is when I wear this and I catch whiffs of it, sometimes it can be different. Sometimes I'll catch a whiff of kind of like that fresh aromatic lavender style scent. Sometimes I'll get that slightly sweet fruity note, and sometimes I'll get that kind of fruity maninka with a little bit of that dusty chocolate underneath it. Overall, the scent is very upscale and classy. This is something that I could wear to a formal event, put on a suit and tie, wear it to church, etc. It matches that style, but it also has a little bit of that casualness and mass appeal factor to it that you could pretty much wear it almost any time. I could see myself wearing this all year long, but with the majority of wear coming in the fall and winter. So is this worth picking up if you already have Boss the Scent or some of the other flankers? To me, absolutely yes. It still has that DNA to it, but it is different enough, at least to me, to want to have this fragrance. To my nose, it smells closest to Boss the Scent Absolute, but definitely different enough that it's not going to be redundant to have both of them. As far as longevity and projection on this, I get about 6, maybe 8 hours of longevity on this, and the projection is about average. This is no beast mode fragrance like a couple of the other Elixir fragrances out there, but this certainly outperforms the original The Scent. Alright, if you've made it this far and you enjoy this type of content, new releases, designers, clones, etc., please hit that subscribe button and like this video if you enjoyed it.